look what just came. Fujifilm X100V. Still in the box, haven't opened it. But before I open the box, I want to talk to you about my camera I'm trading it in for. This is a Fujifilm X100T. I've had this for 5.5 years. I got this in late 2016. So when I'm doing this videos, I'm going to talk about this camera, the things I like about it, things I don't like about it, how I used it, and why I'm upgrading, and whether you might want to buy one of these in the used market, okay? So let's get going. Hi, I'm Paul Krause. I'm a professional photographer based here in Kyoto, Japan. I also lead photo workshops for iExplore, do travel consulting for Japan Travel Consulting, and also do tour guiding. We can learn about all that stuff below. So you might be asking, Paul, why did you buy this camera in the first place? Well, I used to have an X100S, which was the second version. I shot a gazillion frames on it and used it for lots of gigs. And then one photo shoot, it started not working so well. So I went down to the camera shop and they said, nah, it'll be too expensive to fix. And I traded it in and bought this camera in late 2016. So I just bought whatever the current version was at this time because I really like this kind of camera. Take a look at this. This is a Popular Photography magazine from December 1995. One of the reasons I really wanted an X100 series camera is I used to have one of these, which is a Konica Hexar, which is a film camera that's a lot like an X100 series camera. It's basically got a fixed 35mm f2 lens on it. Some of my favorite shots I ever got on film since I've been living in Japan were with that Konica Hexar. It's just really good. It had a really good lens on it. So when the X100 series first came out, when I saw that, I was like, I want one of those. It wasn't even thinking too much about it. It's like, I want one. So how would I use this? I offer these photo shoots for tourists who come and visit Kyoto, which is an international tourist destination where I take them around town. Show them the sights away from all the other tourists and get some pictures of them. Usually it's like couples or families and stuff like that. I was using this camera a lot for that because it was light. I'm out all day and sometimes in the hot sun, and just lugging not so much gear around is important. So having a smaller camera, but very, very capable camera, was really important to me. The freedom of movement for me many times outweighs the flexibility of having a lot of lenses. But I also this was a backup camera. I usually on a paid gig, you need to have a backup camera because Murphy's Law rules photography, and you know, your camera's gonna die at the worst possible time. And that's just how it works. So a lot of times I'd use this camera for just when I'm going out, just taking pictures, just, you know, going for walks and stuff. But oftentimes I just carry this. Or if I'm gonna be with friends and wanna take some pictures of them, good pictures, a good camera, I'd take this. I don't know, I really love this camera. This is one of my favorite cameras I've ever had. What do I really like about this camera? The JPEGs that come out of this camera are excellent. The colors are awesome. Many times if I do shoot JPEG and RAW, the RAW is just in it for backup for emergency. It's 2022. The pictures should look great right out of the camera. I really like the style that has knobs, and the aperture's right here, the shutter speed's right here, the exposure compensation dial, which I use all the time. The other thing is it's small enough to carry around, but it's also big enough for my hands. And in general, I just like the mirrorless cameras. I see what I'm getting in the screen as I'm taking the pictures. So I really like that. I use the back screen a lot. Negative to this camera is it doesn't have a flippy screen, and I really like the flippy screen. I use that all the time with my X-T2. And the other thing is people just react to this camera much differently than they do when you're shooting with a really big camera. They feel more relaxed, and when you're feeling more relaxed, they're going to get better pictures. It's not this giant DSLR with a huge zoom lens in their face, and people are like stressing out. Also, when I'm doing this, I'm out and about. I look more like a tourist than a professional photographer because I've gotten chased out of a lot of places because, oh, you're taking professional pictures. Let's talk about the negatives of this camera. I would say the negative part about this camera is it's like a really nice car with an underpowered engine. It's just a little bit, you know, like when you're driving and you're on like a 2-lane highway and you're trying to pass somebody, and if you get a car with like a rental car with a, you know, not underpowered engine, you press the accelerator and it just kind of goes a little, doesn't really accelerate, and there's a truck coming toward you and you're like, ah, you finally get around the person. This camera is a little bit like that. So if you're just shooting, you know, a frame here, a frame there, it doesn't matter that much. But if you're shooting lots and lots of frames, or more importantly, I call it the toddler test. And that's, can the camera keep up with a 2-year-old? This really can't that well. I can get some good shots, but there's a lot that are out of focus. I think the newer cameras, like my X-T2, is much better with that. And other negatives of this camera would be, I think the lens is good, but wide open, up close, it gets it's not sharp. It has this weird kind of hazy thing to it. So I just stop it down to f4. Other weakness of the lens, especially in a certain kind of backlighting situations, it has kind of a strange flaring. But in general, I think the lens is quite good. I get lots of great images from these cameras, so I don't want to cut it down, but those are weaknesses. So also the video on this, not really anything. The new camera will have video, and I'm starting to shoot video, so it's more important to me. One of the reasons I'm upgrading is I've got 60,500 shots on here, which is making me feel less confident with this. This is not a professional level camera, meaning professional cameras are designed to take a licking and keep on ticking. Not that I've had problems with this, but it's just getting long in the tooth. Shooting for money, you want to have confidence that the gear that you're using works. It's sort of like my Macintosh computers. I got an iMac. When do I upgrade the iMac? I try to get as much mileage out of it as possible. Either it dies or the processor doesn't work as fast anymore because of the upgrades of the software. I got to trade it in and get the same thing as I got before, just the newer version. That's what I'm doing with this now. The other thing is why I'm upgrading is because I've committed to using Capture One for doing my RAW files. I found that Capture One is really easy for me to get the film simulations in the RAW files to look just like the JPEGs that come out of the camera. I love the JPEGs that come out of these Fujifilm cameras. I think they look great. The color is awesome. But with these X-T1 series cameras, this is X100T, it's got the same sensor. Capture One does not support the film simulations in this generation of camera and earlier. It's some sort of agreement they made. I have to do this clunky workaround, which I'll make a video about. I'm trying to upgrade all of my cameras to a more modern sensor because I want it to work with the updated software. Should you buy this used? Well, this can be a good street photography camera or travel photography camera. Whether or not to get this version it really depends upon how cheap it is and what condition it is and who you're buying it from. I would buy it from a store that there's like a warranty on it. If they send it to you and it's broken, you can send it back to them. I try to get the best condition camera or lens as possible. I'm usually like Mint or Excellent Plus or Bud at the top. Because when you start getting down, if something's been used a lot, it should be pretty cheap. As long as it is still in good condition, this could be like your beater camera where you're not so worried about breaking it. So Matt Granger did a great video. He looked at all the different X100 series cameras and he just talked about which one should you buy based upon the money that you got. It's actually a really good video. There'll be a link about that below. I think if you got the money, get the F, an excellent condition F. That's what I would say for shooting pictures. Try to get the most up to date as you possibly can. Okay, that would be my recommendation. It's a good camera if you want to play around with a camera with this, this sort of format of camera. So my plan is to actually take this camera out of the box. I wanted to talk about this camera before I opened up this box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to compare these cameras. I'm going to go out and do some shooting with both cameras and look at them. I still have a few days before I have to send this back off to the camera store as part of the trade. If that was helpful for you and if you liked it, please don't forget to click like or subscribe. And also, if you have any comments or questions, please write them in the comments below. Thanks a lot. See you around. Bye.